I have IBS. I've been managing it really well for many years, and I also love to travel. So I'm inviting you in my house with me as I finalize some of my traveling packing for my upcoming trip. And I want to talk through a few kind of practical ways to prepare for a trip. Now, as we get into my packing routine and some of the things that I bring, I like to be prepared. For me, my anxiety of what if I have this symptom or that symptom, or like what happens if like this other scenario occurs, like for me, that anxiety only is calm through preparation. Not everyone is the same. So if you are a completely different personality type, this video may not be as helpful and it may seem like too much. But if you are also like me and your anxieties are more calmed by your preparation, then I hope that this video gives you some tips and tricks and thoughts, at least, like sparking a conversation that you can have to best prepare for your upcoming trip so you can feel your best. For some extra background, my IBS type is constipation, and I've had it since I was a kid. But again, I've well managed it for many, many years. I'm now a dietitian. I specialize in IBS. This is what I do for work. And now my symptoms are a bit different than they were previously, where I would have extreme distension and bloat, lots of crippling pain, and really severe constipation where I would likely not poop the entire trip. That's not the case anymore. Now, what I struggle with is the a little bit of backup, so not as complete of bowel movements, or I might have a couple of days that are off, and so that's what I try to really attack first. And then if I am a little bit constipated, then I may have some bloating due to that gas buildup from the constipation. So my goal of travel, pain is usually not the piece of the puzzle, which is great because I typically can get things worked out, but working around food and being really mindful about certain triggers and mindful about my food intake is huge. And then supporting my gut motility so that I have great bowel movements is another piece that I have to focus on. And so that's what a lot of my tips today are going to be around. Now, whenever I'm thinking about travel, I always think about my symptom toolkit. So I'm going to come show you. So I already have it set up and ready to go, ready for you. With my symptom toolkit, I like to consider what I would do every day, meaning what is supporting the daily needs that I have. And I'm going to show you a little bit of like health as well, not just the bowel movement side of things. But for me, it means what helps me stimulate my bowel movements and what's my daily toolkit. Then I like to think about, okay, what are my what ifs extra needs toolkit? So maybe the things I would not normally need at home, but I may need whenever I'm traveling because it's a new environment, there's other triggers in place, and things could just happen. On this particular trip, I'm going to Mexico. I've been to this place before, and I will tell you the resort that we're staying at for like a business retreat. The food is like the most incredible food I've ever had. It's so fresh. I am a pescatarian, and they give me like so many plant forward options. They also make all of my meals onion and dairy free. Lactose and onion are my two major triggers. And so that first half of my trip at that resort is going to be a breeze for that reason. Lots of fresh fruit, like so health forward, which means I get a lot of fiber. And then the second half will be at a resort next door, which may be a little bit different. So I'm keeping that in mind. And so that's going to be some of my what ifs. So whenever I'm looking at my toolkit of my daily needs, I typically keep all of my supplements in these little handy containers. Usually I only have like day and night. So what I did to just mitigate needing as many of these is I have like just a day. Like I doubled up my days, and I know I just take one of brown, one white. My brown pills that I take daily are liver supplements. Since I don't eat meat, that's more of a trial encapsulated liver, something I'm just trying out for like the iron, the B vitamins. It's just an experiment, not something I would recommend for everybody, but something I've been trialing. So I'm using up the rest of those. And then vitamin C. Vitamin C does have a motility effect in large doses. It can have kind of a laxative effect, which is something to be mindful about. So if you're taking high doses of vitamin C, I typically say at 1,000 per day or less. Like that's what this capsule is. But if you are taking supplemental vitamin C and you have diarrhea predominant symptoms, that vitamin C might be making it worse. So something to be really careful of. If you have constipation, it may be supportive. So I take vitamin C throughout the rest of the winter, and especially with travel. just adding it in for a little protection. So those are daytime. And then my evening supplements, I put just like one evening, 2 evenings, so I can take less of these. But these are really great. I've got these from Amazon. I think they're in my Amazon storefront. Um, I believe so. If not, I'll try to get them added in there. But these are really handy just for travel because there's so many compartments. I also will often have just like a compartment of as needed, extra magnesium, and then I have melatonin if I can't sleep. So I always have that in like one of my weekend ones that I can just have with me whenever I'm traveling. So in my evening supplements, these are what are supporting my motility primarily. And so magnesium citrate, which has a laxative effect, and I dose up when I travel because I know my gut tends to slow down. I also will bring extra if I need to like dose up a little bit compared to my norm. And sometimes just depending on how the week's going, like today, I leave Wednesday, today is Monday at the time of me recording this. If I was slowed down today and didn't have a great bowel movement today, I may dose up even the couple of days leading up because stress is higher. There's a lot more anticipation of the trip. My gut tends to kind of tighten up when that happens. And so I keep that in mind as I'm packing this. I also take magnesium glycinate, which is a more mineral form of magnesium, which helps me with like relaxation in the evening. So that's in my evening supplement kit. I believe that's all that's there. So those are daily. Something else that I do daily is fiber. So I take sun fiber, which is also what's in regular girl. I usually take just like regular sun fiber, but I get the sun fiber GI or regular girl sticks whenever I travel. I will take fiber with a ginger tea packet every single night whenever I travel. And I usually will just make the ginger tea from the coffee maker, like just run water through and go from there, add the fiber to it. I do this normally during the week. This helps me with regularity. It's a prebiotic fiber, feeds the gut microbes. And sometimes whenever I travel, again, this trip I won't need to because there's so many great plants available, beans, legumes, things like that that are high fiber. But if I'm going somewhere that I may be eating less fiber, like sometimes in New York City, if I'm getting more like bagels or like pastas and things that just maybe aren't as rich in fiber as I would normally be eating, I may double up my fiber supplement to keep my fiber consistent, which will help keep my gut more regular. And so I always bring that. In addition to my ginger tea, I often do bring other teas. As an as needed thing, I like to always travel with Smooth Move tea. I used to do like the Miralax like travel packets, and I would double that on top of like my magnesium, which is more lower dose. But I found that this, which has senna in it, this is a stimulant laxative. You cannot take this every day. It's habit forming, but this is a little bit more gentle than some. And so I find that these are really helpful if my gut just locks up. And sometimes that's not preventable. I think that's important to talk about. I think with the chronic nature of IBS, even though I do all the things right, my gut is slow and it will be slow. And if I wake up early and like my routines are off and my gut's just not moving, like, and sometimes that happens, like this can really help to like just get things cleared out so that I don't stay backed up. So this is something as needed. I always have on hand with me as I'm traveling. Something else that I always take with me whenever I travel is FODzyme. This is an enzyme blend that targets FODMAPs, and it specifically targets the lactose, GOS, and fructan groups. That means dairy, beans, garlic, onion, and things like that, wheat. So I use this a lot because dairy, beans, and onion will cause me to be bloated and cause me to be more gassy. And this has been such a game changer for me where if I could go around it, great. And then again, this trip I might be able to, but if I can't, this is always supportive. I have this stashed in everything. I even have some stashed in my husband's wallet so that if I ever forget it and he's with me, he has some. And I just am in love with it. So I use the regular jar for it at home, but I will always travel with these travel packets whenever I'm on the go. So I have a large stash of these to take with me if I need them for added support. And then that'll give me a lot more freedom as I'm traveling, which is exciting. We do have a discount code because they are a podcast sponsor. So check the caption for that, as well as Sunfiber. We have a discount code for them too. I believe they've been a sponsor as well. So we'll check on that, but check it out just in case. So some other things as needed. I rarely need anything else than that. Again, I'm very type A. I need to know that I'm supported at all fronts. But when it comes to my gut, usually that's all that I need and I'm good, but I like to be prepared in case something happens. So one thing, Dramamine, I don't typically travel with this, but this particular trip, there's a long like commute car ride from the airport to the resort. There's also a boat situation happening, and I am very prone to car sickness. And for me, I don't have emetophobia. If you do, then I'm sure you live by this even more. But if I get car sick, like it's really hard for me to bounce back from it. Like it kind of spirals for me because I have such bad memories from childhood of getting severely car sick. And so I do tend to just throw this in my bag if there's a situation that could arise. So I will have this on hand for that. Another thing is ibuprofen. This one's going to be so controversial, but I'm just here to be super transparent and honest. I do not take this very often. One thing that I can get are migraines. And this has nothing to do with my gut necessarily, but menstrual cycles, like certain parts of my cycle, I can be really prone and vulnerable to a migraine. And these migraines are debilitating, and they tend to happen when I travel because I don't sleep well. I have high like stress, right? Stress is increased. And so that can happen. And in those moments, this is all that tends to help. This is not good for your gut at all, but it is something I do keep on hand because the thought and fear of having a migraine, because I've had them with some of my trips, like it can give me a lot of anxiety. And so knowing that, like, hey, if it happens, I'm okay, I'm prepared. I always get the enteric coated or the coated ones that can help be a little bit more protective on the gut. And I'm always mindful if you take ibuprofen, that is going to be more sensitive to the gut. So I only take it when I absolutely need it, the bare minimum that I need. And then I'm mindful about how my gut's going to feel. It might be a little off. So, like, really being mindful and gentle with my gut after taking it if I need to. So that is something that I may bring. Other thing that I just have are these Pepto-Bismol tablets. Again, you never know what's going to happen. Something weird, funky happens. I like to just have these in my bag just in case. Same with Imodium. I don't know if I've ever had to take Imodium in my life. This is for my husband as well. But it's just that kind of, you know what if something happens, foodborne illness, like you never know what could happen. And so I just have this in my bag as a supporter. And then I also always carry IV guard in case pain does come up. These peppermint oil capsules are really effective at like calming the gut down, helping with pain. Sometimes these will help if I am a little bit more bloated, if my gut is a bit more sensitive. This can be really supportive. So again, I just take these and just stash them in my bag so that I have them really in the worst case scenario. Alongside that line, I mean, just as we're looking at the whole medicine cabinet here, Band-Aids, nothing to do with my gut, but if you're uncomfortable, I'm a firm believer that if you're uncomfortable somewhere else in your body, with IBS specifically, because we have such high levels of sensitivity, hypersensitivity to sensations in our bodies, if you're uncomfortable somewhere else, like that always makes me feel like crap. And so I'm a big believer in comfortable shoes, comfortable clothes, and bringing Band-Aids in case something happens, like with your feet or whatever. I'm always prepared. So that helps me. Another thing that I typically will travel with that it also can help my gut too are electrolytes. So LMNT, I don't use these every single day, and I don't like use these religiously with travel either, but it can be easy to get dehydrated with travel, especially now I'm going somewhere like Mexico. Part of the trip that we're going on, like sauna will be involved, we'll be in the sun, like there's just a lot of opportunity to possibly get dehydrated. And so this can be helpful, especially if my water intake drops. This can be a really helpful support on that level of migraines. Like sometimes this is what helps a lot, just adding those extra minerals in and that sodium in sometimes can be really beneficial. So I always carry these with me as well. And then something else I'm traveling with right now is collagen. This is something more just health. I'm working on increasing protein, just like fiber. Sometimes my protein drops whenever I travel, simply because of the types of foods I'm drawn towards. So I don't foresee that being a part of this trip, but I have this just in case. I can add this to the coffee that I'm drinking in the morning or something during the day. And it just helps me feel, good that I have this in case I need it. So I have this on hand as well. So this is my travel toolkit when it comes to mostly like supplements, medications, things like that. It is a lot. This is a lot of stuff. And I know this can seem a little overwhelming, but the way that I came to find all of these things was thinking through, okay, what do I use daily and how do I make sure I bring that with me? What are some things that I use most often as needed? How am I stocked with that? And then what are these worst case scenarios that may pop up in my head? And how can I be prepared for this? And I found that a lot of my clients, even like some of these things, I'll have to throw away because they'll expire and it's kind of wasteful, but I have it on hand when I need it. And it just really does help. And some of my clients have felt the same way, with just being over prepared. It's a level of kind of comfort and like a safety net that if something came up, like you're ready, and it allows you to take away that, like, well, what if this, what if that kind of caution, and just really enjoy yourself and be present in the moment. And so that's the way that I like to approach it. And it can really work and be helpful. Maybe some of these tools are the same tools you use. Maybe you use different tools. And I think that's something to explore. And also being open minded to try the tools out when you are traveling, and then just see what works or doesn't. And if it doesn't work, like, you drop that tool and you add a different tool, you try something new, which is something that I do as well, right? And that can make a huge difference. I do want to say, before we move on from this part of travel, with all of the supplements, like, please, please, please do not start a supplement without talking to your trusted healthcare provider. Yes, many of these are very safe, they're very well studied, and they can work well. However, we are all unique in our needs, and supplements are not 100% safe. Nothing that you take in is going to be 100% safe. So it's important to make sure to discuss that with someone who knows your background and can help you make sure it's right for you, which is always important. So the next part of my travel toolkit is typically going to be snacks, because you never know what is going to be available to you. And so finding some snacks that you tolerate well and having those on hand can be so important and so valuable. Now, this trip specifically for me, I know what's going to be available. Like, I have better expectations of that. And so I'm not going to travel with a lot. I also know some of my go-tos in like different airports that I can typically handle. And like, there's not going to be a lot of need to eat in the airports and things like that. But I'll share with you what I am bringing and kind of how I'm approaching that. So something I always will bring is some sort of bar. And so I love the Go Macro bars, these peanut butter ones. I love these. They're one of my favorites. They're low FODMAP. They have a lot of low FODMAP bars. Fody Foods has some low FODMAP bars. There's a lot of options out there, but these are some that I really love, and they're very dense. Like, these are very filling, and so I like this because if I need like kind of something to really hold me over, or sometimes I'll eat half of it and then eat the other half, and so I always take this with me. That's something that I typically will travel with. Something that I usually travel with that I won't this trip just because I'm not going to need it are oatmeal packets. I always have these. These are from Trader Joe's. I like these specifically, but I always love these for especially work trips where I'm eating breakfast in my hotel room. Like, oatmeal, again, I can make it in the plastic cup with the coffee maker, a really easy go-to way to get plenty of fiber in the morning. And then I may buy some fruit if I have that available. Sometimes I'll pack even some like fruit, like oranges or something, that I can just throw with this. But that's something that I typically will have on hand. Again, not for this trip. Sometimes I'll bring trail mix as well. One thing I am bringing for this trip, just because I'm really enjoying it right now, is popcorn. I think with this trip specifically, like, there are some longer flights. And so again, I don't think I'll need anything to eat necessarily, but I may find myself needing a little bit of a filler. Like, if I get hungry, I'm gonna throw a few of these fried popcorn, just plain popcorn with salt. Popcorn does take up volume in the gut, so some people do have more gas buildup. When you're on a plane, that elevation that you get to as the plane goes up can cause more gas expansion in your gut. So popcorn's not going to work for everyone. This may work better whenever I'm actually at the hotel, like kind of more settled. So I don't know if I'm going to eat it or not. Probably definitely going to eat this, but this, I don't know when I'll eat it, but I'm going to pack a couple of those just because I've been enjoying that lately. And then again, sometimes I'll pack some nuts and things like that. So that's really all I'm taking this trip. But if you're really concerned about availability of food, like, pack food to take with you. Nut butter packets, like, that you can kind of put on something. Like, I've had clients do that with like rice cakes, or even take pieces of bread with them if they want. That can be an option. If you have if you have allergies that you really have to work around, like if you have celiac disease, you really have to avoid gluten. Sometimes airports can be tricky, and so you may approach that with even more detail. But it's just important to think through the day, like, visualize it. What is that travel day going to look like there? What is it going to look like when I'm at the place? Like, what will I need? Maybe you pack it in advance, or maybe you go to the grocery store when you get there and grab a couple of things that you may need. Again, this trip, I don't need that, because I'll have the food available and I kind of know what to expect, and it's all going to be okay. whenever I am at airports, some things that I do go for are I like the little hummus and veggie trays. Like hummus isn't always low FODMAP, there's garlic there, but that tends to work for me, especially in those smaller amounts. I also really love like tuna sandwiches. Again, it has garlic, but tends to work well for me. I kind of go for that. Sometimes a pre-made salad works, or like a little fruit cup. That will sometimes be kind of a go-to. Sometimes people will have like oatmeal and things like that too available. And you can always go grab those. Like there's usually a lot of options depending on the airport you're going to. So I know that I can be prepared. I kind of know what to expect and I feel good about it. But you want to know for yourself what you need. So outside of supplements and outside of snacks, what's actually in the suitcase, right? What else are we considering? And I alluded to this before. I've already packed all my clothes, so I'm not going to show you all of that. But one really good hack whenever you are packing is to think about your own comfort and your own confidence. And so, one thing that can help a lot is to try your clothes on before you actually pack them and think about, okay, if I was bloated, right? Worst case scenario, I eat something, my gut's off. If I'm bloated, is this going to be comfortable? Like maybe travel isn't the time to wear the like super tight fitted clothes, right? Wear something comfortable, especially on the plane. Like these pants I'm wearing, these just kind of Lululemon yoga pants, right? High waisted, these are tight, there's compression. My gut is going to expand on the plane. That is expected. That's going to happen to everybody on the plane. These pants will be uncomfortable. I'm not wearing these pants on the plane. I find that looser, like my looser jeans that are super comfy, my looser kind of sweatpants with like a looser waistband, those tend to work really well. Or for me, like onesie or dresses, something where I have no restriction in my stomach are the most helpful. So that's what I'm going for. And then the same is true for the rest of my clothes that I packed. Most of them are kind of loose, flowy, less tight, right? And the ones that are fitted have stretch. So I know they'll be comfortable. If you are considering like the week, if your gut tends to get like more backed up, more bloated as the trip goes on, maybe plan to wear the things that are more fitted and a little bit more restricting towards the start of your trip, knowing that your gut might get a little bit bloated towards the end, right? That's something that you may consider. And then one thing to always have with you whenever you travel, that is every IBS girl's dream, is perfect poop companion. And that is your travel size squatty potty. I take this with me. This is in the Amazon storefront, but this is going to go with me every trip. Home for the holidays with my family, this is there. Like I will unpack things and pare down my clothes in order to bring this with me because this always travels with me. The reason why is that proper toilet posture can help you poop more efficiently. And so this is something that works so well for me, and is a part of my routine that I will not let go of. And I love this design because this has been really durable, easy to pack, very flat, and it's great. So this is what I always travel with. All you do is you just pop it open, lock it out, and there you go. Kind of gives a little bit over time. You can see we've had this for like 2 years and it's gotten through a lot of trips. Then you're ready to go. You unlock it, snap it back in place, put it in its carrier, and it is ready to go. So this is every IBS traveler's dream. And for me, again, as a non-negotiable, it's going to go with me every single trip I go on. So I hope that was helpful thinking about some of those travel tips and ideas. This isn't everything. Like there may be some other things that you need to consider, including communication with the people around you that you're traveling with, really advocating in your schedule for space that you need for yourself, routines that you need to have in place. That is always helpful. You get to decide how much or how little you want to share. But sometimes those little details and just thinking through it, like kind of working through it in your mind, like being prepared in advance can make such a big difference. So I hope that this was helpful and that your next trip feels even more empowering, more confident, and hopefully has a lot more ease to it.